Hello, in this lecture you will learn about verb, the basic kinds of verb, especially the auxiliary verb or the helping verb. Now the material provided to you in this video has the following sentences. For example, in the first sentence, my brother is a doctor in a government hospital. You see there is a double slash in between the sentence. This double slash is there to indicate difference between the subject and the predicate in the subject. My brother slash is a doctor. My brother, this part of the slide, this part of the sentence is subject and the rest is predicate. Now go through all these sentences and you will find difference between the different kind of verbs. You will see the base form of verb, the simple verb, then base plus s form, the singular form of verb, then verb plus ing, for example looking and giving, past tense of the verb, that is verb plus ed, example is looked and gave, and the last is the past participle, that is verb plus en, looked and given. Now about irregular verbs, one thing is to be noted that you need to know at least a few basic irregular verbs that are provided to you in this video. In the link of the video you will see these kind of verbs. These are some important irregular verbs. For example, the first one, abash, and the second form of the verb is abashed and abashed in the third form. So I have provided this list, complete list of different verbs. Before going into any depths and detail of the verb and grammar, you need to learn at least 100 such important verbs. So moving on to the next part, we will discuss the verb. Now in this slide you see a verb can be divided into different forms. We are now talking about the auxiliary or the helping verb. The helping verb, it is of two types, primary auxiliary and modal auxiliary. Primary auxiliary is of three types: be, have and do, and be is again divided into is, am, are, was and were. These five are be, and have, as you all know, has, have and had, and do is do, does and did. And about the modal auxiliaries, these are will, would, shall, should, can, could, may, might, need, need not, dare, dare not and ought to, and almost 23 such important modal auxiliaries are there. So we will study modal auxiliaries later. First of all, we will learn the primary auxiliaries. Now the primary auxiliaries that are be, have and do. Now what is an auxiliary? The question arises. An auxiliary is a auxiliary verb is a verb that is used together with the main verb to show time and continuity. It is always used with the main verb or before the main verb. Be and have are the primary auxiliaries and do is the helping, supporting auxiliary. So all these three, be, have and do, are considered as primary auxiliaries. So a primary auxiliaries is used to construct compound tenses. Sometimes there are compound tenses like I am working, am and working. Both these forms of verb are there. Rob is using the computer. We were all wondering about what Kevin was teaching in America in 1995. So be is generally used to construct these kind of sentences where there is a compound tense, and again these are used in passive forms, passive voices. These books are sold in supermarkets. These books are sold in supermarkets. Have is used to make present perfect and past perfect tenses, as we all know. that have is always followed by the third form of the verb, but generally it is used in present perfect and past perfect tenses. For example, Stephen has finished fixing the car. That means he has recently finished his work. So it is not past tense, it has been completed recently. That's why we call it uh, present perfect tense. And Stephen has finished. Now look at the sentence, has and finished. Has is the primary auxiliary and finished is the third form of verb. So this has is a form of have, and it has been used before the main verb. In the second sentence, George and Alice have seen the show already. They have already seen the show. That means it has been seen, but not very recently, not too late. That's why we are using it in a present perfect sense. George and Alice is the subject. Have there, it is the primary auxiliary, and seen is the third form of see. So all these examples will help you to understand the basic nature of this construction have. Then there is do. Do is the supporting auxiliary, as I have already told you. It is used in forming negatives, questions, and emphatic statements where you pressurize your point. Emphatic statements are those statements where you emphasize your point. For example, let us see one by one. I do not like sausages at all. I do not like sausages at all. In this sentence, do is used to form a negative sentence. In the second sentence, do you like prawns? Do is there to make it an interrogative sentence, a question. And in the last part, which is called an emphatic statement, you do like prawns, don't you? Don't you? This don't you portion, this tag is emphatic, pressurizes point. So that's why do is used there. So do is used in many different senses. We will discuss that later. And modal verbs, as I have told you, some important modal verbs are will, and the past tense of will is would. The same is may and might, can, could, shall, should, and must. So usually these different kind of modal verbs are used for different types, for different kind of works. For example, a modal verb allows us to talk about action as possible, doubtful, or necessary. For example, when there is a possibility, we will say may. When there is some doubt, we will say can. A possibility. Charlie will go home on Friday. Charlie will go home on Friday. That means this is a sentence of future. It is telling us something about the future. Charlie may go home on Friday. It means there is a possibility. There is a possibility. That's why we have used may. Charlie could go home on Friday. There is a possibility, but still there is a doubt. And when there is a doubt, so we have used could. And Charlie must go home on Friday. This is necessary. That means there is some kind of essentiality in it. So in that this part of the PDF form is made especially to elaborate the idea, but this is the important portion of the slide. You see there are some contracted forms and the auxiliaries are used there. So how these contracted forms are used? Look at the slide. Auxiliaries are very often used in contracted forms. In the case be and have, the contracted form can invoke linking the subject and the auxiliary verb into a single form. I am, I have. So we will read it at I am, I have, we had, sews, that means sew is. So all these contracted forms are used with the help of these auxiliary verbs. Now one important aspect of these auxiliary verbs is that they can be used in making question tags or sentence tags. What are sentence tags and what is a tag? Tag is something which is attached to something. One important feature of auxiliary verbs is that we can add some question tags to any sentence. And question tags are as you know, tag is something attached to a sentence. Like in the following examples, the first example, you had only just bought that carpet when the kitchen flooded, hadn't you? Now the last portion of this sentence, hadn't you, it is called a question tag. And the second is, it's Katie's birthday on Saturday, isn't it? That means instead of repeating a sentence twice, we just add a question tag to it or a sentence tag to it. In these three sentences, there are question tags, and in the last, you are joking, aren't you? You are joking, aren't you? Aren't you is the question tag of this sentence. Then auxiliaries are also used to make a short addition to a statement, such as a positive addition. For example, in the first example, I went to the park and Lucy did too. In this case, there are two different sentences. I went to the park and Lucy went to the park. Both these sentences are combined together with the help of this sentence tag. I went to the park and Lucy did too. So this question tag is added with the help of auxiliary verb to avoid any kind of repetition. This makes your sentences very effective. So auxiliary verbs are used in variously. In the next portion, a negative addition to a negative statement also accompanied by neither or nor. For example, my dad never eats mussels and neither do I. Neither do I. The last portion of this sentence is again a sentence tag, and it also avoids repetition. I don't want to speak to William now, nor do I. I can't understand him, neither can I. So all these are the various uses of auxiliaries. Then again, auxiliaries can be used in positive sentences to give emphasis, to give stress. When they are emphatic, they are never contracted. For example, look into the sentence, you have made a mess. You have made a mess. Here the word mess is emphatic. That was a nice surprise. I am proud of Katie. She is so clever. So when there is no contracted form of auxiliary, that means it is emphatic. So in this PDF, you will be able to see various uses of auxiliaries, and you can go through it directly at your own accord. Now we will discuss one by one. For example, uh, the basic uh, be, the first primary auxiliary be. Be can be used as a main verb. For example, in this uh, first sentence, my elder brother is a famous doctor. Is, in the second sentence, Rekha was weak at mathematics. Was, my parents are in the room upstairs. Are. So all these are the basic examples of this auxiliary verb be. Now be can be used as an imperative sentence. An imperative sentence is something where you exclaim something, you give orders, you give suggestions, or anything of such types are called imperative sentences. For example, be more careful in future. It is a suggestion to you, be more careful in future. So be is used there. Then again, don't be quiet please. Now this is a request. So this imperative sentence is a sentence of request. Do be quiet please. Don't be foolish. Why don't you be a nice boy and obey your parents? So all these are sentences are made with the use of be. Then we come to the next, were. Were, as you all know, is a plural of was, but today we are going to discuss some special use of were. The use of were in some special constructions. For example, some conditional sentences that if I were the prime minister, I would solve the problems of unemployment. In this sentence, I am not the prime minister, I wish that I were. So were here is used for some special meaning. You can see were is used especially in these kind of constructions. I would not care if I were you. मैं परवाह नहीं करता अगर मैं तुम्हारी जगह होता. I wish I were there. काश मैं वहाँ होता. I wish she were alive. काश वह जिंदा होती. These were the special kind of constructions where were is used. Now we will discuss have. Has, have and had. These are three parts of have. Have is used as an auxiliary in different kind of sentences. For example, I haven't met the new teacher. Now you must remember that has, have and had must be followed by the third form of verb. If there is no third form, then the sentence is either incorrect or it may have some other implication. So these two things are necessary. If has and have and had is followed by third form of verb, that only it will be called the perfect tense, whether present perfect or past perfect. Have you finally decided to quit this job? Now in this kind of sentence where the interrogative sentence is made, have is placed just before the subject, you, and it has made it interrogative. Have you finally, and then comes decided, the main verb. The main verb is in the third form. Boys have already assembled for the morning prayer. You see, have already assembled is the auxiliary form, the auxiliary helping verb here. Have and already and assembled. So have is the auxiliary and assemble is the main verb, and already is modifying it. Rekha has been selected for admission to the MBBS course. I was certain I had not seen him before. So all these sentences are there for your general practice. Now we will see have as a main verb. It is not necessary that have always come as a auxiliary, as a helping verb. Sometimes it also occur as a main verb. So in which kind of sentences? Let us look here. We had coffee in the breakfast. We had coffee. You see there is no verb in the sentence. There is only one verb, and that is had. So if it is the only verb, then it will act as a main verb. She has high fever. In this sentence again there is no other verb, and so has is the main verb. Do you have a bath every morning? And I don't have any difficulty in locating the person. So these are the examples where have is used as a main verb. Again we will see have with some kind of continuous forms. This is some advanced level of speaking, some advanced level of English grammar where the progressive form is used. See, we are having breakfast. We are having breakfast. That means it is the work is now in continuation. We are having breakfast. हम breakfast कर रहे हैं. He is having a bath. Now here again have is employed as a main verb, and is mr is always followed by an ing. Is mr is always followed by ing form of verb. So here have is the main verb, so have is used in the continuation. That means having. We are having breakfast, he is having a bath, they were having an interesting conversation. Now you see, this is progressive and the static where nothing is in continuation. We have some guests this evening. आज शाम हमारे पास कुछ गेस्ट आए. We have some guests this evening. So here we see that the verb is static and no progression is seen there, no continuation is seen there. So again there have is used, but have here is not used in continuation. I have two brothers. She has a good memory. Now in the next portion we will see that how we can change these sentences into progressive or continuation form. They were rewritten as progressive. What was the first sentence? We have some guests this evening. Now we will write it as we are having some guests this evening. आज हमारे पास कुछ गेस्ट आने वाले हैं. I am having two brothers. She is having a good memory. So so in these sentences have is used in progression. Again in the next portion we will see have with to infinitive. To infinitive, we all know that after to infinitive first form of verb is used and when have is followed by to infinitive, that means some kind of obligation is there. कोई मजबूरी की बात जब आपको जाहिर करनी होती है, कहीं मजबूरी है. वी हैव टू स्पीक इंग्लिश इन ऑल लैंग्वेज क्लास. हमें बोलना पड़ता है इंग्लिश. वी हैव टू स्पीक. सो हैव इज फॉलोड बाय अ टू दैट शोज सम काइंड ऑफ कंपल्शन. आई हैड टू वर्क हार्ड टू पास द टेस्ट. मुझे बहुत मेहनत करनी पड़ी. ऑब्लिगेशन, करनी पड़ी. हैज़, हैव, हैड के बाद अगर टू आता है, हैज़, हैव, हैड प्लस टू, it shows some kind of compulsion. So in the last portion we will see do, does and did. The form of do. Do can be used as an auxiliary. I don't like coffee. Did you go to Agra last year? My partner does not rise early but I do. Where does your sister live? In Allahabad. In all these four sentences, do is acting as a helping verb. In the first word, do is the helping verb of like, and in the second, did is the helping verb of go, and so on. The use of do can use of do is used to emphasize your point. Do is also used in this way. Do come on Monday morning. Suppose I say come on Monday morning, then it will be a simple sentence. But when I add do to it, then something is stressed. मुझे अपनी बात थोड़ा जोर दे के कहनी है. Do come, please do come. जरूर आइए. Do come on Monday morning. So do here express some kind of emphasis. Why didn't you help him? I did help him. She does look pretty in her new dress. So all these sentences are there for emphasis. And do can act as a main verb. And when it comes as a main verb, it is often confusing. For example, in the first example, Sheila did not do any shopping last day. Now, Sheila did not do. The first did is the auxiliary verb do, and the next do is the main verb. So, the do written in bold letters is the main verb, and the did that was preceded by it, it was the auxiliary verb. So, in this sentence, do has come in both the forms, in auxiliary as well as in main verb. Let us do our homework. And what does he do with all that money? Again, in the last sentence, in third sentence, does and do, both forms of do are used. In the first form it is auxiliary, and in the second it is acting as a main verb. So with this we come to the end of today's lecture. I hope you may have some of your doubts cleared, and I hope you will complete the assignment and the quiz too. Thank you. In this portion of the video, we shall discuss about the most confusing question as where we have to use has and where have is used. It often confuses us all. So I have made this table for the help of the students. You can see there singular and plural pronouns are there. I in singular form and then we. You in singular and you in plural, and he, she, it is the singular form and they is the plural form. So we will discuss one by one. If we have to use have, so keep it in your mind that have will be always used here. I have, then again we have. You will be followed by a have, and again you in a plural will be followed by a have. But only in that case where third person singular noun is considered, has will be used only at this level. That means he has, she has, it has. And if there is any third person, any noun of the person like Mohan, Sohan, etc., if it is a singular third person, then it will be followed by a has. Otherwise, have is there every time. And the same is the case with do and does. That means do comes with I do comes with we do comes with you in the singular and in the plural form. But does is always comes with he, she and it, where has is there we always put a does. But when the third person is not singular, it is when it is a plural, then again we will use do here. For example, Mohan has a book. Mohan is a third person and he is a singular. That's why we have used has. But when Mohan and Sohan are considered, then Mohan and Sohan have a book, not has. And the same rule applies to does and did. Thank you.